Hey everyone, today we'll be showing you how to make 2 sweet recipes based off Avatar: The Last Airbender.
So hungry. Is that egg custard in that tart?
Today we are making Aang's favorite egg tarts.
For this recipe, you're going to need 85 grams of soft butter or 65 grams of lard.
Next, you're going to take 17 grams of granulated sugar and dump it in there and stir.
You want to make sure you mix it until it's nice and creamy. And next up, you're going to add a third cup of cold water and 167 grams of AP flour in alternating pours, stirring as you go.
Start kneading the dough with your hands and knead until it's a nice plushy dough. The next thing you do is put it in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes.
So next up, we're going to make our oil dough. You're going to start with 67 grams of soft butter or 53 grams of lard. Give that a good mix and then gradually add 110 grams of pastry flour.
When it gets too hard to mix with a spatula, start kneading with your hands until you get a nice rollable dough. If it's not soft enough, you can add more soft butter.
Now form the dough into a lump, wrap it all up, and put that in the fridge for 20 minutes. And now we're going to be making our custard filling. Start off by making a simple syrup with half cup of water minus 1 tablespoon plus 50 grams of granulated sugar.
Heat the sugar in the water on medium heat until the sugar dissolves and the water starts to come to a boil.
And now, just remove your mixture from the heat. Next, whisk up 3 eggs, or about 150 grams. Get them nice and smooth, but you don't want to overmix. Then whisk in a 1/4 cup of whole milk.
Next, go on ahead and pour your simple syrup into the egg mixture while whisking quickly and just get it all in there.
This is what we'd call tempering the eggs. Make sure you don't stop whisking or else the eggs are going to overcook. Next, we're going to strain out our egg custard filling to try and get it the smoothest that we can. We want to get all of those little bits and gunk out of there. And we're also going to have to strain it twice, just to be sure.
Once your doughs have firmed up in the fridge, go ahead and sprinkle your work area or cutting board with flour and go ahead and put the first dough on the cutting board.
Form your dough into a square or rectangle so we can roll it out as evenly as possible. Sprinkle on a little bit more flour and roll that dough out nice and flat.
You're going to take the oil dough and place it on top of your first dough, making sure it is even and patted down, and you're going to wrap the second dough with your first dough in an even little package.
Now give that a little press, sprinkle with a little bit of flour, and roll it out really gently to a nice thin sheet. Make sure you're not breaking the layers while you're rolling your dough out.
After you're done rolling the dough out, do a tri-fold and make it into a little rectangle. Go ahead and wrap it back in your plastic wrap and throw it in the fridge for around 20 minutes or until it is firm.
And now we're ready for our second fold. Repeat the same steps as before, sprinkling with a little bit of flour and rolling out the dough gently.
Go on ahead and do another nice neat tri-fold, place it back in the plastic wrap and throw it in the fridge for 20 minutes or until firm.
Now we are ready for our third and final fold. Roll that dough out flat, and this time we're just going to fold it in half. Now you're going to roll that dough out, get it to about 3 millimeters of thickness, being careful as you do so to not break the layers that you've made.
Next, go ahead and coat your tin or molds with a very thin layer of oil, making sure that there's not too much. Use a cookie cutter, jar lid, or stencil to cut shapes or circles that are a little bit bigger than your molds.
Now gently press the dough into your molds. I would be making the tarts look all pretty and fancy, but in the show they look pretty simple, so I'm just going to stick with that.
You can use your leftover scraps to make more shells by patching them together, lightly pressing them in place, and then going over very lightly with your roller to secure them.
This is the best way to preserve the layers of fat that you've created. Just to make sure that the tarts don't melt in the oven, I'm going to freeze them for 10 minutes or until hardened.
Go ahead and start pouring your custard filling into your frozen tarts, leaving a little room on top so they have room to grow.
Now bake your tarts at 380 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Once those 15 minutes are up, rotate your tray of tarts, reduce the heat to 350 degrees, then bake for 10 more minutes.
When the tarts are done baking, leave your oven door ajar for around 5 minutes and keep them in there. So the tarts are all done, and they look beautiful.
This is just a classic dessert where you really can't go wrong. This buttery and flaky crust just goes perfectly with our fragrant and rich filling.
What is this?
That's our new festival food. Unfried dough. May we eat it and be reminded of how on this day the Avatar was not boiled in oil.
Our unfried dough recipe is based off bao dough. We wanted to retain the floppy texture while still having a delicious taste. To start off with this dough recipe, you're going to need 1 teaspoon of instant yeast, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and 100 grams of warm milk. Mix all of this together till smooth, then let it sit for 5 minutes.
After letting rest for 5 minutes, go ahead and add 200 grams of AP flour. While mixing with your spatula, add 1.5 teaspoons of almond extract.
Mix with your spatula, then move to kneading the dough with your hands. Form a soft and smooth dough.
Place your dough in a lightly floured bowl, cover and let rest for 1 hour. After an hour, get your water ready in your steamer to steam.
Now take your dough, which should have risen by quite a bit by now, and place it onto a cutting board.
Use your hands to press the dough out to get rid of any excess air. Start rolling out your dough to about 1 centimeter thick.
Once the dough's been rolled out nice and smooth, we're going to start using a stencil to trim around the edges to create our avatar shape. But if you also have a gingerbread man cutter, you can use that too and it'll be a lot faster.
If your dough edges look a bit choppy, do not worry because you can always smooth it out with your hands later. Cut out some wax or parchment paper so your dough can rest on it while it's steaming.
With your scrap pieces of dough, you can roll them back together and use them again. Just make sure to give it a rest for 30 minutes first. Put the dough that is not going to be steamed yet into the fridge so it doesn't overproof.
Next, take your selected doughs and throw them in the steamer for around 10 minutes.
And while that's steaming, we can start to make our edible food dyes. For our black paint, we're going to be mixing activated charcoal with a little bit of water, though you can also use black food dye. And for our blue paint, we'll be using a few drops of blue food dye and a little bit of water.
10 minutes, take out your bao buns and be really careful as it will be really hot from the steam. Now that your steamer is freed up, go ahead and place the second set of bao in the steamer and cook.
With your steamed bao buns, carefully remove the wax or parchment paper from the back. Before we start painting Aang's face, I'm going to test the shade of the paint on the back of one of the buns first.
First, we're going in with the blue dye to sketch Aang's arrow. Next, we're going in with the charcoal to paint his eyes. Go ahead and repeat the process for all of your steamed buns.
Now that our unfried dough is finished, it's almost too cute to eat.
These buns have a plushy texture and its subtle flavor would go great dipped in some condensed milk.
Our interpretation of unfried dough still has a doughy texture while tasting great. We really hope you give it a try. Hi, thanks so much for watching this little cooking video. If you try making any of these recipes, please tell us how it went in the comments below. If you feel like making something savory, please check out our last video where we made seaweed noodles, fire flakes, and cabbage bison soup.
This is our first video series for YouTube, and we're planning on making more, so please let us know if you want to know how to make any recipes. Just comment down below if you have any ideas. Also, if you could give us a like, a subscribe, and ring the little bell so you can see when we post another video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!